Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited.
We are so excited to be joining you guys tonight.
Oh! Well, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Oh, he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs. All right, welcome in. It is Thursday, August 21st. It is the Arrowhead Addict podcast. This is the OG Hour. Patrick Allen here with you. As always, joined this week by the other OG, Adam Best. How you doing, man? How's the end of summer out there in LA?
Normally the weather is perfect, but today is a little too hot for my liking. But generally, no complaints. This time of the year, I'm just itching for football. Like, let's just get it over with. I'm so ready. Like 2 preseason games, that's enough. That's enough, right? I know we have 3 now, and that was less than the 4 we used to, but I don't know. I think we could make do with 2.
I agree with you. We'll have a game tomorrow night. We'll have a post-game show. We're going to talk a little bit more about that and what we expect from that game, what we'll be looking for here in just a minute. But again, you're listening to the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Shout out to all of our members out there. See a couple of folks in the chat already. Sea Beach, Phantom, Ruben, what's going on, everybody? Lots to talk to. Lots of news happening around the kingdom over the last 24 hours. I think it's not the end of the news that we're going to be hearing, maybe even perhaps more news coming today, rolling into tomorrow. There's a lot of action happening in the NFL right now because trades are happening, because teams are looking at their rosters. They know who they're not going to cut, or who they're not going to cut and who they are going to cut. So they're picking up the phone and they're making phone calls saying, hey, you want to lock this person in because otherwise, they're going to send them out. So people are trying to get value, fill remaining holes. Lots to talk about. If you want to become a member of the Arrowhead Addict podcast, check out the link in the description. Now is the time. We're going to be doing giveaways this football season, all season long, for Arrowhead Addict members only. So if you're at the Ring of Honor level, you're going to be entered every month during the football season to win a Kansas City Chiefs jersey. If you're a member at all and any of the levels, you're going to be entered in to win like a hat, something along those lines, a little bit lower value. So it's a great time to get involved. Join the private Discord. We'll be in there talking during the game tomorrow night. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, check out the link in the description. Supports the show, and you get really cool benefits like happy hours with the hosts, and getting to talk ball with like-minded Chiefs fans. So it's always great. Fantasy Football League, which I will be winning, of course, is we're going to be drafting soon here. I got to set the date for that. All right, well, let's dive in. We got a lot to talk about today, and we're going to talk movies at the end, of course, like we always do. So a couple big news items. First, just for everyone's edification, cutdown day is August 26th. So, we are rapidly approaching the point where we're going to find out the final roster for the Chiefs. Now, it's never the final roster. There's always some moves made, but that's coming. So get your roster predictions in now, and then you can tell us I told you so later. But Adam, I want to touch on this crazy news item that happened last night. 2 things broke at the same time. We heard that, and we're going to talk about this in just a minute, the Skyy Moore trade news, but then also this Andy Reid shooting story. It was from the Kansas City Star. I'm just going to read you a couple paragraphs really quickly, and then we'll get into it. A bullet penetrated the glass of the practice facility office of Andy Reid while the Chiefs coach was working alone in it last year. Reid was unharmed, according to the police department. The shot was fired from outside the facility, so it was nobody inside, and it lodged itself in the office wall about 15 feet from where Andy was sitting shortly after midnight local time. And this happened on May the 4th, 2024. Reid was not hurt, but he now has bulletproof glass protecting him in the office. And all 3 gunshots struck the 3-story facility that night, a source told the Star, one hitting the 3rd floor, one above Reid's office, and one hitting the air conditioning unit. This is just nuts. it doesn't seem like this was a direct attack on Andy Reid, but there's not really a way to know, is there?
There's not. And thank God he's all right. 15 feet from being, shot by a bullet is a close brush with death for any of us. But
yeah, now
that we know he's okay, it only adds to the legend of Andy Reid. It's like get Lombardis or die trying or something. He's like a rapper now. He's like Tupac or 50 Cent or it is pretty cool for Andy. Once he probably got over the shock of I almost got shot by an errant bullet. And I think it was an errant bullet. We don't have any information that shows that this was some kind of like assassination attempt or some direct hit on the Chiefs. Probably just some idiot or some idiots. But the amazing thing to me, other than just the whole situation, is that the Chiefs kept this under wraps for almost a year and a half. I mean, this is just the ultimate business as usual franchise. I can't imagine that any other team in the league would have their head coach almost shot and just be like, well, another day at the office, And also, he was working past midnight. This is just who Andy Reid is. It wouldn't even happen if he had a normal human work ethic.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's scary. It's like, who knows what it was, right? It could have been some stupid kids who were just like, who don't like the Chiefs or what, like, and they're just like, hey, it's after midnight, right? So maybe they're thinking nobody's there. Let's just like, yeah, screw the Chiefs. Like to fire a couple bullets, obviously insane, reckless. But, if you were gonna try to take out Andy Reid, you would think that midnight would not be the time that you would hope he was in his office shooting from afar. So they probably are stray bullets of some kind. But I hope they're able to find who did this, but they probably can't. I mean, they probably would have by now if they were able to track where these shots came from. It's been quite a long time. You're right, though. Imagine being Andy and you're in your office and you hear like a noise and a pop and your glass breaks and you get up. Imagine the terror he must have felt for those few seconds after he realized what happened, that like a bullet had come through his window and that he was standing there exposed in front of that window. I'm sure that was the end of his work session for the night. Very scary. I'm glad nobody was hurt. I'm glad Andy's okay. But this is something that I'm not surprised they kept it under wraps. One, because the police want to investigate it, all right, and see if they can catch the person. And this is one of those things where, maybe they didn't feel like putting it out there in the public eye was going to help them track down who did it. But two, weird copycat stuff happens. And sometimes people they just don't want to put out there even the idea of violence against anybody in their organization or against the Chiefs. This is a high profile professional sports team, and there's security. The NFL has security, the Chiefs have security, and for good reason, because when you're high profile, you can be a target for all kinds of crazy stuff. And so kudos to I think it just speaks to the how well the organization is run in general, that it did not leak out until now. That anybody who heard about that in the organization, they didn't say anything, and they respected the safety of Andy and everybody else at the organization. So hats off to them for that. And but what a wild story, man. I'm just glad he's okay.
No kidding. No kidding. And it wasn't just one bullet either. It was, I think, three, like one hit above him. And so he probably hit the deck, man. And, I know you said his workday was probably over, but he or whoever else was still there, they called the cops. He probably had to stick around and talk to the authorities. It was probably a pretty big deal for them. But
I'm sure they've got security around the clock and at Arrowhead and all of their facilities. So, but yeah, very scary stuff. I'm glad he's all right. And we'll move on to football. But it'd be great if they caught whoever did that, because it's just especially after what happened at the parade and everything. People don't need to be living in fear. Okay, so last night the news breaks. Skyy Moore gets traded to the San Francisco 49ers, who have had a slew of injuries to their wide receivers. The trade comp, I believe, I think it's a 2027 sixth from San Francisco. I believe it's 27. and they swapped. So the Chiefs gave San Francisco Skyy Moore and their 2027 seventh, and the Chiefs got a sixth from the 49ers. And look, this is a win just from a front office perspective. Skyy Moore was not making this team. There just was no reason to keep him anymore. He's been terrible in preseason despite his one good return. And this getting any value from a guy that you're planning to cut is a win. So that's great news for the Chiefs. I got to tell you, Adam, so Skyy Moore's not a good professional football player right now. Like he just hasn't. It hasn't worked out for him with the Chiefs. But I was really disappointed in Chiefs fans last night. We'll talk about guys in regards to football on this podcast. We might use some harsh language sometimes if they're not playing. We might say he stinks and those types of things. But at the end of the day, right? These are people, and they are, in most cases, trying their absolute best. And there's no indication that I've ever heard that Skyy Moore was anything other than a good teammate who tried hard and it just didn't work out. And so, when I think about Skyy Moore's tenure with the team, or even Kadarius Toney's tenure with the team, I think about being frustrated with what I hoped would happen and what did happen. But then also, I feel like I'm old enough and mature enough to have perspective and say, okay, Skyy Moore, who's a human being, he had a play in the AFC Championship game. I know he caught a couple touchdowns in the Super Bowl, and those were great. Like you or me could have caught those touchdowns.
Busted coverage.
Right? It's busted coverage. But he still caught him. He did it, right? Just like MVS, right? And that punt return, if he doesn't return that punt to like the Chiefs 49 or something against the Bengals in the AFC Championship game, the Chiefs might still win that game. But they might not. They needed every scrap of yard that they got to get that Harrison Butker field goal over. The run from Patrick, the penalty, and Skyy Moore's, they would not have had time to get into field goal range. It's unlikely. He's directly responsible for one of the biggest plays. It is one of the biggest plays, special teams plays in Kansas City Chiefs postseason history. So is Kadarius Toney. Both of those guys played a very key role in the Chiefs winning a Super Bowl. They did. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, when he iced that game against, who was it? He caught that ball at the end of, was it Buffalo? In the AFC Championship game to send him back to the Super Bowl to ice the game. I think it was the AFC Championship game. He caught it after being terrible all year and dropping everything. So long rant to say, I tweeted out that while it didn't work out for Skyy Moore in Kansas City, Chiefs Kingdom, I wish him the best, and the Chiefs Kingdom should be grateful for his contribution because he helped the team win a Super Bowl. You should see some of the responses I got to that. I mean, just like low down insults to me, just horrible stuff. And I just wonder sometimes, y'all are Chiefs fans, right? You root for the players who are on the Chiefs, even if maybe they don't play as well as you think. At any rate, I don't know if you saw any of that, Adam, but Skyy didn't work out here, but for it to be a controversial take or tweet to say, hey, we should be grateful that guy helped us win a Super Bowl. That's controversial because you don't like him because he didn't live up to his draft stock. It makes no sense.
Yeah, people definitely went too far, which is a bummer because I definitely enjoy jokes. I think some of the Skyy Moore and CEH and MVS jokes are funny. And I think there's a line we can walk where it doesn't go too far. And first off, I mean, Brett Veach, miracle worker. This was a Danny Ocean level heist that he got anything. I mean, I'm surprised he didn't have to give the better draft capital to the 49ers just to take him. I don't know I don't know what Kyle Shanahan sees. Maybe he sees a guy who can be kind of a gimmick gadget guy, a yak guy in their offense, manufactured touches, punt returns, which is wild that maybe that punt return got this deal done considering where we started, which was 3 muffed punts as a rookie. And the other thing that's wild is the biggest contribution in the Chiefs' tenures of Kadarius Toney, Mecole Hardman, and Skyy Moore was a playoff punt return. Not the way you'd want to write it up. And I think what needs to be said here, and just playing the devil's advocate here, the contrarian, I think when Chiefs fans look at a play like that, they say, well, Patrick Mahomes gives the Kansas City Chiefs the greatest margin of error that any NFL team has ever had in the history of the game. So it's like choose your own adventure. If we pick someone else, there's a good chance we still find our way to the Super Bowl, and maybe they make more plays. But he did make that play. You cannot take that away from him. You cannot take any of those punt returns or any of the touchdowns those guys made in the playoffs or the Super Bowl away. And also, I think Brett Veach and Andy Reid have learned from their mistakes with Skyy Moore and Kadarius Toney. And I think we should separate Skyy Moore and Kadarius Toney because Skyy Moore is a good human being, was a good soldier, was professional. He got the yips worse than maybe anybody I've ever seen. I mean, just a complete and utter loss of confidence. But Kadarius Toney was not professional, does not seem like a good human being. So if you're going to dunk as hard as you can on somebody, I mean, that's the guy that probably deserves it. And I just think at this point, we can have some jokes, but we should probably just say, good for Skyy Moore. He gets a fresh start. Maybe he still has time to resurrect his career. And good for the Chiefs. They moved on. The fans were clearly done with this guy. And him dropping, you had to feel bad for him last week. He's in there against third stringers. They're just throwing a little flat pass to him, trying to get him going, and he can't squeeze the football. And then it happens again. It's almost comical what has happened to this guy's hands. And I don't really understand it because the guy has some of the biggest hands you'll ever see for a wide receiver. He shouldn't have these problems bringing it in, but it clearly is all mental with Skyy Moore. But the other thing I was getting to is Andy Reid, Brett Veach, they have clearly learned about drafting and developing wide receivers because they've gone from Mecole Hardman and Skyy Moore and Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney was a trade, but still they surrendered third round capital, right? To Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, who it's just like night and day what we've seen from those two young players who look like emerging stars versus the previous 3. So sometimes, you got to break some eggs to make an omelet, as cliched as that sounds. It's true.
And look, I think probably what depressed me the most about the reaction to that tweet it's the lack of nuance that people have these days. Like there's no gray area with anything, right? If I say it didn't work out for Skyy Moore, but we should be grateful that he directly contributed to us winning a Super Bowl. People take that. Some of the responses I got were like, yeah, but I should be allowed to be glad he's gone. Who said you're not allowed to be glad he's gone? Yeah, but he wasn't good. Who said he was good? Nobody said he was good. Nobody said that you're not allowed to be that you weren't allowed to be relieved that he's gone, that you're glad he's off the team because even though he made up some plays here and there, he was taking up a roster spot and wasn't contributing on a game-to-game basis to the team's success. And you would rather them develop more wide receivers that can contribute and that you don't have to worry about dropping passes and fumbling and muffing punt returns. Like, I get it, right? Like all of those things. It's like, but there's no room for nuance in our society right now, right? You're a Republican or you're a Democrat. You're an asshole or you're a saint. You're Skyy Moore or you're Patrick Mahomes. Like there's no, there's no in between. And why can't we look at a situation and be like, yeah, that guy didn't work out. I wish it would have worked out. Like if Skyy Moore was a 6th round draft pick, nobody would give a shit. Like nobody would have cared, but they would have been like, oh yeah, it was good value. It's not his fault the Chiefs took him in the 2nd round, right? Like they blew it and he tried his best and it wasn't, but we don't have to be assholes. Like when just in everything, Skyy Moore, talking to people in the world, like you don't have to be an asshole. You choose to actively be an asshole. And so when Skyy Moore, who probably like, you think you dislike Skyy Moore. Do you know who feels the worst about the Skyy Moore situation? Skyy Moore. So like, don't be a dick. Like just stop being a dick. Like we can have fun, make jokes and stuff, but to act like there's no nuance in the world, that there's no gray area. that you can't just look at a guy and be like, yeah, man, that dude, his punt return, I'm going to like, we may not get to the Super Bowl without that punt return. He made the one play we needed him to make. I don't give a shit about any of his other plays because he made that play. If you told me that I was signing up for the Skyy Moore experience, but I got that play. If you told me I was signing up for the Kadarius Toney experience, but I got that punt return in the Super Bowl. If you told me I was signing up for the MVS experience, but I knew he was going to help us ice the game so that we could go to the Super Bowl, I'm in. Frank Clark, people still bitch about his contract. Who fucking cares, man? That dude showed up for us in the playoffs. We don't win. I'm telling you, we do not win that first Super Bowl without Frank Clark. So like, separate your expectations from reality and like try to look at things from somewhat of a nuanced lens and just try to be like a decent person. I'm done. I'm sorry. It just was bothering me all night, because then I had people saying stuff to me that were like, maybe Tyrann Mathieu was right when he said this fan base is toxic. And I was one of the people that took Tyrann Mathieu to task when he said that, because I also hate when people paint with a broad brush, when like one fan or a couple fans are assholes or knuckleheads to say something, and then somebody says, oh, Chiefs fans are like this. I don't like when people say it about Bills fans. It's just like, no, man, like just stop, right? So I don't like anytime we contribute to that narrative, because I defend the kingdom all the time from people. But like, man, you should see like people calling me the R word, like because I said, hey, Skyy Moore, thanks, man, you helped us win a Super Bowl. Wish you the best. I'm grateful for Skyy Moore in that punt return, if nothing else.
Yeah, not to get too preachy because none of us are perfect, certainly myself. But I think sometimes we have a little bit too much Chiefs fan crime on social media, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, wherever. And like, guys, we have 31 fan bases aiming at us. They hate us. They troll us constantly. Like the least we could do is get along and not do their job for them. Closing thoughts on Skyy Moore. It just really broke bad. Even the rookie year, I was sitting there looking at him, and I'm not saying he's Davante Adams, but when you look at the consensus board for where Skyy Moore was supposed to go, that's where he was supposed to go, guys. It was an industry-wide miss. PFF even had him as a first rounder. And why I mentioned Davante Adams, he was another small school guy, receiver that went in the second round that did not have a good rookie year. And sometimes you think, well, these guys don't get instilled with the confidence of the guys that are like D1 superstars and sure things from the jump. So maybe he just needs to build that confidence. And instead of his confidence getting better, it diminished. It got worse to the point where last season he didn't even get a catch, which is just one of the craziest stats I've ever seen. He had Brett Beach breaking his laptop in the booth. Yeah, man, that's really all I have to say. I just think it's good for everyone that this is over, because once in a while a player will become kind of the most hated man in the kingdom, a Chiefs player. And once you reach that point, it's just probably time to go. There's no like turning things around, because this probably happened because I think it's usually a plus, but sometimes it can be a con. Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo are excessively loyal to their guys because they want to instill confidence in them. And sometimes it goes on far too long. That's it.
Yeah. And look, I understand when you draft these guys and you've got them on the contract, like it makes sense to try to keep developing them for a time. And then you reach a point where it's like, okay, if we don't have anybody better skill wise, you can cut bait. Maybe they should have done that last year with him, but there was probably, I'm not a cap or contract expert, but I don't think there was very much, it wasn't going to do anything for the Chiefs really to cut him last year financially. So, no. They just went ahead and saw if you could give him anything. And, he knows the playbook. He knows the plays. He can be used in special teams. Like there were reasons to keep somebody like that around maybe than alternatives.
And also he's a receiver that probably wasn't clamoring for the ball. A lot of these guys think they're Jerry Rice, even if they're, even if they're more like his son. And they, you kind of have to have that mentality to play the position. But I think the other thing that probably happens here is fans of a certain team sometimes lose league-wide context. And if you want to look at first and second round picks, go look at what the Buffalo Bills have done with theirs, despite having more first and second round picks during the Mahomes and Allen era. Brett Veach has outdrafted Brandon Beane. There's no question. So I think sometimes we think the hit rate should be higher than it is. And sometimes I get frustrated with the early round picks of the Chiefs too. FAU is the latest, very frustrating pick. But also, Brett Veach has spent so money in rounds 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 that I think he's made up for a lot of that. And then you have a draft where he gets both Creed Humphrey and Nick Bolton in the second round. I mean, that makes up for a lot right there. So I think his batting average is still very good.
Major Chips is in the chat. He wasn't clamoring for the ball because he was scared he wasn't going to be able to catch it. So that's a funny joke. That there we go. That's fine. Yeah. And it's pretty funny. Okay. Let's move on. So this is some news came out, I believe it was today, from Dianna Russini. She says sources, teams making calls in search of a running back. Running back additions include the Saints, the Browns, and the Chiefs. So the Chiefs are calling around trying to find out who's out there. Why? I feel like this is one thing that I'm a little bit frustrated with Brett Veach in the front office on. During the draft, we were all like, there's a deep running back draft. Let's get ourselves a running back. They wait until the 7th round to get Smith. We'll see. The jury's probably still out on him. It looks like they're going to use him a very specific way, and not between the tackles. Are you frustrated that now they're calling around looking for running back help? Like, isn't this sort of like an I told you so moment for the kingdom to the front office to be like, guys, like, we knew this was going to happen. What do you make of this?
I don't think so. And this is just my opinion, but I think they feel like they have their rushers and Kareem Hunt and specifically Isaiah Pacheco, who wasn't himself last year. They apparently feel very confident in those two guys. We've seen that. And what they're really looking for is the Jerick McKinnon role. So yes, this was a rich draft class with running back talent, a very deep one, a very, rare, like once every decade kind of class. That said, how many of those guys had juice and were ready to be a day one pass protector? I have Omarion Hampton and Travion Henderson, and that's it. So for a win now team who needs to protect the most valuable quarterback in the entire league, Brashard Smith is going to play some as like a gadget guy, but he's not ready to protect Patrick Mahomes. He's just not. And I don't think there was probably anybody in the draft that was ready. So in my opinion, they are better served at this point trying to go out and find someone they can trade for that may be underutilized on the depth chart or on their way out, that can catch passes, kind of is a little electric in the passing game and is a good pass protector, is ready to protect 15 on day one, because with that left side being so new, they're going to need a receiving back that can help Kingsley and Josh out.
I think, they're probably doing exactly what you're saying, right? They're going to try to get some cheap so they can throw a 6th or 7th round pick at somebody to pick up a back that they think can help in pass protection. Because Brashard Smith will get, he's a little guy. He's going to get right. He's not going to put up much of a fight.
He's new to the running back position. You can't expect him to have pass protection mastered after a season and change at the spot.
Yeah. And that's probably what they're doing. But I'm going to tell you what I hope they're doing, or what my dream is that they'll do. And that is that they'll go trade for Breece Hall. The Jets, for whatever reason, just seem to hate Breece Hall. That's all they talk about, is how they've got these great running backs. They're doing timeshares in the preseason games. Breece Hall, I think, is an excellent back that is just rotting away because the Jets are an incompetent franchise. And if they love their running back so much, now I know their coach said, we're not trading Breece Hall. I think he said it yesterday, Aaron Glenn, right? I don't believe that. Like, dude, you've been talking you've been like going out of your way. You know, Breece Hall said earlier this offseason that like, I'm not their guy. They didn't draft me, all that stuff. I just think he catches the ball, Adam. Like this would be, I think the Chiefs need more offensive firepower. They're going to lose Rashee Rice for probably a significant amount of time, but still potential that he could be gone for the beginning of the season. And while I think Isaiah Pacheco looks good, I mean, how do you like the idea of Breece Hall being your lead back and then Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt rounding things out?
It makes a lot of sense. And I actually think Breece Hall is probably better suited to be I actually think Jahmyr Gibbs is better, but kind of like Jahmyr Gibbs, where he lets somebody else grind between the tackles, between the 20-yard lines. And he is a passing weapon and a red zone weapon. And I didn't think Breece Hall looked very good last year, and that was probably because of injury. But I do think he is kind of a square peg in a round hole with this Jets franchise. Aaron Glenn and that new regime wants to run the ball. I mean, they have Justin Fields, who we know throws the ball less to running backs than any quarterback in the league. And that's where Breece Hall's surplus value is. So he's not the kind of guy that they're going to like max out in terms of value. So they should be looking to trade him. But when you look at their offense and look at Garrett Wilson and that group of receivers, it is just Garrett Wilson and that's it. And Mason Taylor, the tight end, the rookie tight end they feel great about, has a high ankle sprain. I think they're going to keep Breece Hall and be like, man, we need all the weapons we can get for Justin Fields. So I just kind of see it as unlikely. I also see Travis Etienne as unlikely because of where he's running currently with the Jags. I could be wrong. I think Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet are very unlikely because Seattle is committed to the running game and protecting Sam Darnold. So I think we're going to have to dig a little deeper. And I don't know if you've made all the points you want to make on Hall, but I've got an idea for you.
Sure. Let me get a couple super chats here from the Campbell Cooks. Appreciate you. Asks, if KC was to make a trade, would you prefer Hall, White, or Robinson? So why don't I tee that up for you, Adam, and then you can expand on your thoughts here.
I think Rachaad White has been a guy that has not been used correctly in Tampa Bay. Coming into the league, he's a tall running back, looks a lot like David Johnson light. If you guys remember him from the Texans and Cardinals, a guy that was kind of like so-so as a rusher, but really dynamic as a big receiver with juice. He can really pass protect. I think he's probably one of the half dozen or so best pass protecting backs in the league. And if you look at Tampa Bay, that's the other thing. These teams have to want to do this. Rachaad White's contract is expiring, and Bucky Irving is an absolute stud. They love Bucky Irving in Tampa. And then Sean Tucker has been really making waves in camp and the preseason. So they've got two guys with more years on their contract who might be a better fit for that current regime. And Rachaad White, he's also a Kansas City guy. And I don't think he's very good as a rusher, but they don't need that. They do not need another guy picking up 4 or 5 yards a carry, picking up what's there. They need a guy that when Patrick Mahomes is in trouble can help with blocking or be kind of a safety valve and take a little dump off that most running backs would take 10 yards and take it 20, 25, or 30. That's what they need. They didn't have that last year. It was a disaster. I think the most under-discussed topic from last season and why it went wrong is they did not have a Jerick McKinnon type. So I think this is like a Kirkland brand version of Breece Hall. Because Breece Hall is obviously a better rusher, but also if you look at price, what's Breece Hall going to cost? A second, a third? What's Rachaad White going to cost? A fifth? So I think just the Chiefs, they've shown us with their behavior, they are not going to give up probably big capital for a running back. I think they're a little trigger shy after CEH. So that would be the big holdup there. But yeah, I think Breece Hall would obviously be awesome in Kansas City, and so would Rachaad White. And hey, both these guys are from the area, so it would be kind of a cool homecoming story as well.
Yeah, I mean, Breece Hall in 2023 994 yards on the ground, a 4.5 average, 5 touchdowns, but he adds 76 receptions through the air, 591 yards receiving, and 4 more touchdowns. That's appealing to me, man. I do think that Brashard Smith can't do it this year. Like, he can't get in there and be, at least for the receiving element of it. Obviously, the pass protection thing is a problem. Like, and also, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What does this mean? If they are looking for a receiver, that means they're not happy with what they've got. So who is it that they're unhappy with? Is it Kareem Hunt? Is it Carson Steele? Is it Brashard Smith? Like, if they trade for somebody's getting cut or going to the practice squad out of that group. Well, obviously, we didn't even mention Elijah Mitchell.
No, and I've abandoned being the bus driver of that train. I think part of that for me was I just didn't see enough from this running back group. I just don't think they have the firepower they need to correct the wrongs of last season. So I've been hopeful that they're going to do something here. And I think Chiefs fans and the coaching staff seem confident in Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. I'm not sure I share that confidence. So maybe behind closed doors, they are actually looking for a better lead back, for an upgrade. And because they're just thinking, if you look at all the other best teams in the league, really, they all have running backs you have to fear, all the other contenders. And what does that do? It opens up the deep passing game. So, and I think Andy Reid has to be a little sick of, his running game was so bad last year that he's looking for other things he can do. Carson Steele offers versatility as a fullback. Maybe that will help. Maybe Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy can be ball carriers sometimes. We know he loves his like reverses and jet sweeps and all that stuff. I'm guessing they probably just want a more dependable all-around running game, and maybe they're not as high on Kareem and Isaiah as we think. I don't know what they think, again, behind closed doors, but they're certainly not going to come out and say and be like truth serum honest. And neither is Aaron Glenn, by the way. What is he going to say? Yeah, we're going to trade Breece Hall and then his value is going to plummet. So These guys fib for a living. That's why they have that great account, by the way, on Twitter, Coach Speak Index, because these guys are just generally not dependable with what they tell the press.
Yeah. And look, the issue with Breece Hall, if you're going to trade for him, is I believe this should be the last year of his contract, right? He was a 2nd-round pick. So he's got a 4-year contract, and I don't think he was extended. So it would make sense for the Jets to trade him now. If they like those other 2 backs they have, and both have looked good at different times, it would make sense for the Jets to trade him. And then the team that's going to go after him has got to want to lock him up, right? Long term. Now, maybe not right away, but if they are going to have to trade something significant, if you're trading a 3rd-round pick, I don't think he fetches a 2nd anymore. It's like he's had a good career and he had that one really good season, but like his numbers aren't like eye popping. I think they could probably get. I mean, what would you do it for? Like,
it might be a swap, though. It's really in vogue to swap, so they might have to give up a 2nd and get like a 4th back. I could see something like that happening.
Yeah.
I'll throw another name out here before I forget it. And if they don't get something done now and they're looking to fix this at the trade deadline, and the Saints are like tanking and one of the worst teams in the league, call about Alvin Kamara. Maybe the people in that New Orleans front office are like, this guy has been a soldier for us. He's been the most loyal player we have, kind of the face of the franchise after Michael Thomas and Drew Brees kind of left. We owe it to him to let him chase a championship. Very, very similar to what the Chiefs did with Tony Gonzalez once upon a time. So I think something like that could potentially happen as well, that they go into the regular season, treat it as a laboratory, and see what they've got and what they don't have, and then they try to make a move in season.
It's gonna be exciting to see. I feel like trading for Breece Hall is the kind of move that Howie Roseman would make. Obviously he traded for Saquon Barkley, right? He's not afraid to make these big swings. And I know Veach has to do things a little bit differently because of the contract that he has Patrick Mahomes on. So he can't just go crazy and
well, their owners are different. Their owners are different.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
how is empowered in a way that Brett isn't?
Right. So it's a tricky thing. But I think, it would be exciting. He would be an exciting addition. And Pacheco's on the last year of his deal. He's had injury issues. You kind of know what you've got in him. But yeah, man, go get Breece Hall. I'm on board. I'm driving that train. Go get it. I think he significantly helps this team. And then roll into the season with with Smith and Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, and now you're loaded up at running back, and you can make some things happen. All right, we gotta keep it moving here. So we get the preseason game coming up. Now it was weird. The starters came out in that first game and played like 3 plays, and then in the second game, Andy didn't play the starters at all, and that was unorthodox for him. Traditionally, they've played in a second preseason game extensively, and then the third one, it was all backups. Maybe it certainly was a calculated move. Maybe Andy wanted to get a look at some people, and he wanted more time to get a look at them so that they could make trades or make other adjustments. But here's what he said about playing time tomorrow night. Chiefs will be playing the Bears, of course. I'm going to play it by ear. He said they're going to start, meaning the starters. They'll start it off, and we'll see how it goes from there. So this is one of those situations where if they come out and they maybe have a touchdown drive, it's 7 plays, 70 yards, something along those lines, they're probably done, or the majority of them are probably done. If they have a couple of ugly series, he may keep them in there a little bit longer. I'm glad he's doing this. I've always thought that the Chiefs benefited from their starters playing more in the preseason. I understand the injury risk, but it's football, man. There's always an injury risk. The goal is to get everybody ready for the season. And I would rather them figure some stuff out and shake off a little bit of rust now against the Bears than in, Sao Paulo when they're trying to play the Chargers, who are going to be coming for them. What's your take on this, and what are you looking for in this game?
The guys I never want to see out there are 15-95 because you just cannot survive them, knock on wood, going down. You can't. And also, they don't need the reps. And one could actually argue that while the offensive line definitely needs the reps, they need the continuity. Half the unit is new, or 40% of the unit, rather. That having Gardner Minshew work with the offensive line and the starters might have more value in case Mahomes has to miss 2 or 3 games in the regular season, because as we saw, that first snap, or one of those early snaps with Gardner Minshew and Creed Humphrey was a fumble, was a bobbled snap because they didn't have the reps together. Creed Humphrey's a left-handed center, very rare. Gardner Minshew isn't used to that. So I think working out some of those kinks could be valuable. And in a perfect world, if you could hermetically seal Patrick Mahomes out there and guarantee that he wouldn't get hurt, yeah, you plan, you get the reps. I think last week when I really sat back and thought about it, you had the combination of a crazy late playing time. It was 9 p.m. when the game kicked off at Central Time, which is what their biological clocks are accustomed to. And then you had the rain. So you have that combination of things. Seattle was taking it very seriously. They've got a new offensive coordinator, new quarterback. Mike McDonald is in his second year, really wanting to kind of like turn up that defense and running game. I mean, we saw how seriously they were taking their running game. And just there was something about that game that Andy probably wanted no part of for his key playmakers. And we saw that, like Trent McDuffie wasn't out there. Rashee Rice played 2 snaps. I don't know what that was about, but Nick Bolton, we didn't see him, Travis Kelce, and on and on and on. We did see George Karlaftis, which was interesting to me that all those other guys sat out and we saw George Karlaftis. It made sense that we saw Creed and Trey in the offensive line because they need to work together as a unit. But, man, I just want to hit fast forward to the regular season because the Chiefs already have Hollywood Brown banged up. They have some other injuries. They have the Rashee Rice suspension looming. And this has been a franchise that has done an excellent job for the most part of keeping its team healthy, keeping its roster healthy. You look at the Chargers, interdivision foe. The Chargers probably the worst team in the league at keeping their team healthy. And I think it's always an underrated storyline of Super Bowl runs. The teams that are super healthy. I remember that year when it was Bengals Rams. I think the story there was these are the two healthiest teams in the league if you look at the statistics. So and like Rick Burkholder and the training staff can't get enough credit there. They always do an excellent job.
They do, and I think Steve in the chat says the long wait after Friday's game opener is why Andy said that yesterday. So there you go. That was a factor, similar to what you were saying, Adam. In this game, I want to see Mahomes out there because I want him to get comfortable with the offensive line. I really feel like they should have whoever the back is in there and just give them the instructions of if Kingsley gets blown up, just tackle the guy. That be like nobody goes near Mahomes. But I think he needs to get a little bit comfortable with the left side of that line. And that's what I'm going to be watching in this game is the offensive line. And particularly Kingsley Suamataia. He has struggled at times. It's been small sample sizes, but he's getting beat in scary ways, man. And I'm worried that we're talking about Breece Hall, and I would love for them to make that move. But if I could only get one wish, it would be for them to trade for somebody, anybody. Get Andrew Wiley back, like whoever you need. You know what I mean? Like there's some guys out there that can just give you league average play at that position. We cannot afford, if Kingsley is not ready, we cannot afford him to have plays where he gets beat in half a second and let somebody clear into the backfield to just annihilate Patrick. We can't. It could ruin the whole season.
Life comes at you fast. I never thought I'd be sitting here wishing for Nick Allegretti or Andrew Wiley to come back.
Wiley,
but,
yeah.
Look at us. Here we are. Am I worried about Kingsley? Yes, I am the kid hiding under the bed in a movie when there's like, some villain or assassin coming to kill me. That's how scared I am about him. And it's not just that he's terrible. It's the way he loses, right? Same thing at tackle. He suffers these quick losses. I think it's a footwork thing. He just doesn't, I'm no offensive line guru, but he allows these guys to kind of, blow by him quick. He cedes ground quickly. And the weird thing is he's a stud when it comes to run blocking. He can really get off the ball and make things happen. Last week, the way PFF graded him, where he was like, I can't remember the exact numbers here, guys, but it was like a 90 pass blocking and 90 run blocking and a 15 pass blocking, which is the chasm between those two things is like, seems impossible to be that good at one and that bad at the other. And some of it, you have to think similar to Skyy Moore, how much of this is mental? How much of this is pressure? You're playing in the brightest spotlight in the entire league. And similar to how Skyy Moore is catching passes from Mahomes, Kingsley Suamataia now has to protect the most valuable commodity in the league. And I'm sure that weighs on his shoulders heavily. But this was a guy that was raw coming out of college. He hasn't played a lot of guard. On one hand, I kind of commend the Chiefs sticking with him at guard. And on the other hand, I'm terrified. I'm like, get Jalen Moore in there. He's not going to be ready for week one, no matter what you do. There's no magic fairy dust you can sprinkle on him to accelerate his timeline.
Yeah, and I just hope what they're doing is, KCDC says Caliendo is league average. He might be. I hope they're not being stubborn here because of where they took him. Our co-host on the show, Sterling Holmes, one of his catchphrases is sunk cost. They drafted Kingsley. They drafted FAU. They drafted Skyy Moore. It is what it is. But along the offensive line, if he is not the best guard that they have to play that position, I don't care who it is. I don't care if they're going to put Kareem Hunt in there. If he's better than Kingsley, do that. Do not put him out there just because you drafted him in the second round and this is your plan. Like the regular season, he's got to be at a certain standard. I'm all for developing guys, right? And maybe they're not ready, and maybe at the receiver position here, there, some places. There are certain positions though where I don't want developmental guys playing during the regular season if they're not ready. Offensive line where they can get Patrick killed, don't want them out there. Cornerbacks where they can give up a touchdown on one bad play, no thank you. I'm sorry. Like it's too high leverage of a situation, too high leverage, too high importance of a position. So we'll see, man. I'll be watching him. I'm rooting for him. I want him to succeed and turn things around. And he looks pretty exciting in the running game. I mean, you pair his nastiness with Creed and Trey Smith. You got something there in the middle of that line from a running standpoint, which would be fantastic. But as Ruben says in the chat, you got to protect the franchise. All right, everybody, we're going to be here tomorrow night. No pregame or halftime show, but we'll be here with the postgame show, myself, Adam, Sterling. So make sure you're here tomorrow night for the game, and make sure you're become a member. Join the Arrowhead Addict crew right now and get in that private Discord, and we'll all be in there watching the game together in the Chiefs channel. It's a great way, like I said, to support the show. If you're here for football talk, that is over. We're going to take the last 9 minutes here and do what we do is time for Patty's Power Rankings. And Adam and I always talk movies. We pick a year and we talk about our favorite 3 movies from that year. And we're going back to the 80s here. And it is 1984, the year after I was born. Really good movie year, some prime, especially for like action and fantasy. It was a great year. Why don't you kick us off, Adam, with your honorable mentions in number 3?
Super fast, for totally different reasons. Amadeus, you just cannot make a better drama than that movie, or a period piece. So an all-time great. And then just something that had a huge impression on me as a child, The Never-Ending Story. What a classic. If you have kids, pass it along to them. It is a jewel. Number 3 for me, longtime listeners who stick around for this segment know that I'm a huge Coen Brothers stan, and it is the movie that started it all for the Coen Brothers. Blood Simple, kind of this dusty Texas noir that is equally scary and suspenseful and funny. I mean, they cannot be funny. Even in their darkest moments, the Coen Brothers are funny. So Blood Simple, if you haven't seen that yet, definitely check it out. Cannot recommend more.
So you were talking about that another week when we were talking Coen Brothers. It's one of the movies that I have not seen of theirs. So Mag and I watched it. I enjoyed it, man. I think the last like 15 minutes of that movie is some of the best like filmmaking tension that I've ever seen. It's
hand through the wall and all that, right?
Yeah. I mean, that whole sequence, the whole sequence at the end is unbelievable. Of course, this was actually Frances McDormand's first movie as well. So very young Frances McDormand. I did think it dragged in places. I thought it was slow in places, but you could see all of the greatness that was to come for the Coen brothers in this film in various scenes. It's probably not going to go in my Coen brothers Hall of Fame of favorites, but I just, when we got to the end and I turned to Mag after the movie, I was like, that lasts like 15 minutes. Holy crap. You want to talk, we talk in the theater about like a good scene, like it crackles, like there's an electricity, and that scene has it. And there's like horror elements. It's fantastic. So my number 3 is The Terminator, man. The Terminator came out in 1984. Not the best Terminator. T2 is the better Terminator, but this is still a damn good movie. It set the franchise up. Great stuff here from Arnold. And it's just a classic, right? I'm a big sci-fi guy. I love it. This combines action, sci-fi, time travel. Really cool story, really fun idea. And it was nice that they were able to take that and sort of actually create a good sequel off of that movie rather than just make the exact same movie again, which is what happens with most sequels. So Terminator's got to be on the list.
And overlooked because it's very rare for a sequel to come along and be one of the most influential, impactful movies of all time, most memorable movies of all time, the way it permeated pop culture and became so ubiquitous. I mean, we still say "Hasta la vista, baby," and some of the one-liners from Terminator 2, but Terminator is there wouldn't be a Terminator 2 if Terminator 1 wasn't awesome. So I'm a huge fan. Love all the 80s and early 90s Arnold run. Number 2 for me, gosh, this has to be on the list. And in almost any other year, it'd be number 1, but there just is something a little closer to my heart. But Ghostbusters, peak Bill Murray and the whole gang. I mean, just a movie that when they pitched this in the 80s, it probably sounded batshit crazy. When they're talking about this, a 200-foot tall, Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and all these different things and people turning into dog statues and, what the hell is going on. But it just sings, man. I mean, everything about that film is perfect. You wouldn't change a character or a cast member or a scene. It just works like few movies of that scale have ever worked.
God, it's so good. It has one of my favorite comedic line deliveries in all of cinema. And it is a character that only has one line, and it's the maid when they're in the museum or whatever, and she startles them with her cart, and they turn around and they blow up her cart with their crazy guns, and she sticks her head out from behind the cart and says, "What the hell are you doing?" And her voice goes up as she delivers the line. The timing of the production of the explosion, the fire and everything, and then her line delivery is hilarious. It's one of the funniest lines ever. And if you watch in the background later, she's trying to put the fire out on the carpet with her spray with her spray bottle. Just an absolutely iconic film. So many great lines. Ray, yes, next time if somebody asks you if you're a god, you say yes. I mean, they're all over the place.
Yes, it's true. This man has no dick,
Yeah, oh God, yeah.
This chick is toast. It just goes on and on and on, right?
Yeah. Before we go on to movies, just really quickly, thank you, Saflip, for the super chat. Xavier Worthy going into his second year. How do you feel about him? Hardman having almost identical rookie stat numbers. I think that we did not see, and I'm not saying that Xavier Worthy is going to turn into Tyreek Hill, but I think Xavier Worthy's rookie year looked a lot more like Tyreek Hill's or Rashee Rice's than McCole Hardman's. McCole was gadget all the way, all day. That really was what he did. At the end of the season, and even the garbage time in the Super Bowl, you started to see Xavier Worthy do it all and start to put it together. So I feel good about his trajectory heading into this year, that he's going to actually take a step forward as a receiver and not just a gadget guy.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And if you compare the predicaments they were in, I mean, Tyreek Hill had peak Travis Kelce and peak Tyreek Hill in an offense that the defenses around the league had not figured out yet. So it was just a much more advantageous situation. Whereas Xavier Worthy, because of injuries to Rashee Rice and guys declining quicker than expected, he had to kind of be the de facto number one, which was just unfair for a rookie, really.
Yeah, he had a lot on his shoulders. Okay, my number 2 here is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I don't think it's the best Indiana Jones, but as a kid, it was always my favorite. Just for the title alone, like I would get excited about this. I think the opener of this movie is like peak 80s fun action adventure. She's singing Anything Goes, and he's at the table in his white tux, and there's poison and a deal gone wrong. It's just so cinematic. It's such a great opening, and you get Short Round, which is a great, iconic movie character as well. Love Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. P. Harrison Ford, God, he's so good as this character back in the 80s, and this one had to be on my list.
I remember when we were kids in like 85, 86, when this was out on VHS, maybe 87, it was like huge all the way up to The Last Crusade and probably 89. We used to Kalima each other, which is when he takes out the heart.
Yeah.
We used to like claw each other in the heart, and at school it was a lot of fun.
I love it. I love it. All right, your number one.
My number one is Beverly Hills Cop. To those who know me well, I'm just a huge Eddie Murphy guy. Not that I stand by every choice he's made in his career, but early Eddie Murphy, man, was a comedic force unlike anything we have ever seen. In that era where he was doing this and 48 Hours and Raw and Delirious, and he was fresh off of Saturday Night Live, he was just unstoppable. And he just is like perfect in this role. Fish out of water role, Detroit cop, kind of rugged Detroit cop, comes to fancy Beverly Hills, has to solve a crime, just it kind of an ingenious thing. And the craziest thing about this movie is it was going to be Sylvester Stallone in the Axel Foley part, which just, how is that going to work? You know, you can't, there are very few roles that you look at and you're like, nobody else could have done this. Axel Foley is at the top of that list. Like, this movie works because, I mean, I like Judge Reinhold and a lot of these other things about this movie, and Serge and everything else, but it works because of Eddie Murphy.
Also, one of the greatest action movie scores, theme songs of all time. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to like play, you know, cop or secret agent, and I was always like, da, 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 da. Oh, it's so good, man.
It's my alarm. It's my alarm. Yeah, Harold Faltermeyer. He did that score. I think he did like Running Man, Top Gun, Fletch. He's done some big stuff, but yeah, I wake up to that in the morning just because I don't know. How can you hear that and not be happy? It's just one of the greatest scores of all time. It's
really, really, really good. Okay, number one for me. So probably won't come as a surprise to our regular listeners. It's A Nightmare on Elm Street. This is my favorite horror movie of all time. It was my gateway into the genre, and I think Freddy Krueger is the greatest slasher of all the slasher movies because of his versatility. Whereas Jason's just sort of a Michael Myers knockoff. The fact that Freddy has a personality and was able to go from being scary into camp. There's a lot of different ways you can play him. Obviously, the immortal Robert Englund, who plays him. I actually have a sign. I don't know if you can see it over there on the wall. It's hanging between the curtain and the door. It's very far away, but it is a drawing, a doodle of Freddy Krueger, hand drawn by Robert Englund and signed to me. I love this movie. It suffers from a little bit of wonky stuff because it was a low budget movie. I think they had like $1 million budget, but this is the movie that made New Line Cinema. Bob Shea was running New Line Cinema out of the trunk of his car, selling movies. He bet everything on this movie, and boy, did it pay off for him. What I love about it is it launches the career of Wes Craven, who became an incredible horror writer and, of course, director as well. And a lot of these slasher movies are not very good or interesting. And A Nightmare on Elm Street is the complete opposite of all of that. This is a movie it's not about a murderous killer coming back and haunting people's dreams. It is about a young girl learning to stand on her own because her parents can't help her. Her mom is a drunk. They're divorced. Her dad doesn't live there. He's in the police force. And it's about her facing her demons and growing up. And it's a really terrific film. And it has like really funny lines that will go over people's heads. They won't notice. Like, she has a line where she wakes up from a dream and she looks at herself and she's got a streak of gray in her hair. And she says, "I look 20 years old." I mean, that's a hilarious line, but that's what a 16-year-old thinks about 20. Like, oh my God, I look 20 years old. It's such a fantastic film. It's scary. It's got some good laughs in it. Of course, it's the first movie that Johnny Depp was in as well. And it has, in my opinion, the scariest kill in any horror movie, especially if this is something you're seeing for the first time, which is the first murder of Tina. And again, this movie starts and you think Tina is the main character, like way before they did Scream, which Craven directed but did not write. You think Tina is the main character. It starts with her dream, and you think Nancy's the side character. But the way that she's killed, if you've never seen it, is she's the first person we see murdered by Freddy Krueger, but we only see her murdered from not in the dream, but from the outside. And so she rises up into the air and there's nobody there. And you see her get cut and dragged across the ceiling, screaming bloody murder. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's really, really upsetting and scary scene, especially when I saw it when I was way too young. So cinematically as well, I think they did some things. The way they did that scene was they had a room that rotated and flipped. They built this set. And so that's how they did hers. And when they did the Johnny Depp scene, when he gets pulled down into the bed and a geyser of blood comes out, they flipped it in real time so that the liquid would come out. And there's all these crazy physics that happen because it gets stuck. It's wild. If you've never seen Nightmare on Elm Street, if you're a younger person, you might find it a little bit silly in places because of the modern CGI and stuff like that. But it's just an all-time great.
Yeah, and if you like Stranger Things, I mean, one of the main characters is even named Nancy. What movie influenced Stranger Things more than anything? I mean, I'd argue that this year is why Stranger Things exists. When you look at like the Terminator and Ghostbusters, and particularly this movie.
Tons of Nightmare on Elm Street influence in Stranger Things. Vecna is basically Freddy Krueger. He kills people in a similar way. You can't see him. And Robert Englund is even in a season of Stranger Things. He's the guy in the jail that they go to see. So it's a wonderful tribute to the film and into the horror genre. Shout out to Lone Wolf out there. Says, this is my first time here. What's up, guys? Lone Wolf, you're coming right in at the end, and you're probably a little bit bewildered because we're talking about film, but this is a Chiefs podcast. We just have a little tradition here. We both love movies, so we talk about it at the end of the show. But check out the catalog of stuff we have here at Arrowhead Addict, and subscribe. Hit that bell. And tomorrow night after the preseason game, we're going to go live. So come back and join us and hang out. We're going to talk ball. We're going to talk about the game and all that stuff because we're about to take off right now. But we're super excited to have you, and we really appreciate you checking out the stream. All right, Adam, let's get out of here. You got things you got to do. I have rehearsal tonight. I'm in a play, y'all. I am in a play. Arthur Miller's The Crucible here in Chicago. So
doesn't get any better than that, really. I mean, in terms of plays, that's kind of the granddaddy of them all.
It is, and I've got a billion lines to learn. So I got rehearsal at 6:30 here, so I got to go and eat and get ready. But we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, we'll be back tomorrow night for the Chiefs post-game show. Thank you to producer Richard for getting us up and running. Thank you to my co-host Adam Best. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.